Hello, and welcome to my AEW Double or Nothing 2026 full show review. Now, I didn't actually upload a predictions video yesterday as I had intended. However, I did make predictions. I put them up on a community post on this channel. I also put them on various social media. But in case you missed them, they're here. So, without further ado, let's get into reviewing the show. And I've got my notes on my phone here, so if you see me looking down, that's why. So, the pre-show was co-hosted by Renee Paquette, and Mick Foley making his AEW debut, which was pretty cool. They had some slightly iffy, awkward chemistry, I would say. It wasn't all smooth, like it often is on these things, and so, like, there was a little bit of talking over each other at points and whatnot, but overall, you know, they did a good job. I think Foley took like a minute to settle in, and especially when he was just like in host mode, he seemed a little unsure as to what exactly he was supposed to be bringing, but once he went into promo mode later in the pre-show, then yeah, then it got good. The first match on the pre-show was Zeta Steel and Viva Van challenging Megan Bayne and Lena Cross. That's the best take I'm getting of this for some reason. I just can't speak. In their 5-minute Divine Dominion like challenge, where if the other team survive the 5 minutes, they get a title shot at the women's tag titles. And this was an interesting take on it, because as far as I know, Zeta Steel and Viva Van, being accompanied by Christopher Daniels, are part of Skyflight, who are, I think, faces. But they started things off, Zeta started things off by getting outside the ring and running around for like 30 seconds, which is kind of heelish in this scenario, right? It's smart, but it's generally preserved for heels. But there's no denying that Divine Dominion are the heels in this one. I didn't do predictions for the pre-show, by the way, but like, come on. Like, this match was fairly predictable, right? But what I don't think was predictable, even though it was a bit of a step up from, like, basically local enhancement talent to actual roster members, albeit lower down the card roster members, was how good Zeta Steel and Viva Van ended up looking in a 5-minute, essentially squash defeat. Like, they didn't get loads of offense in, they didn't make Divine Dominion look like they were in any real peril. They looked like they were in peril of a tie, of a 5-minute time limit draw a few times, which I thought was really good, because they're that much lower down the card that, like, even that is elevating, like, massively so, right? Viva Van took the brunt of the beatdown by Cross and Bayne, but got a hot tag in to Zeta Steel, who got a pin attempt in on, I think it was on Lena Cross. She was, as in Zeta Steel was the one attempting the pin, with under a minute to go, which I thought was really interesting. Like, the Divine Dominion had an established dominance by that point in the match is testament to Zeta Steel and Viva Van, I think, and I think that was the sort of the point. However, after that, the sense of urgency really kicked in for Divine Dominion, and they moved up through the gears. You know, they've really been sort of coasting against the enhancement talent, just putting them away whenever they feel like it. This one, they were like, oh, we might need to step up to second, maybe third gear. And they then proceeded to demolish. I think it was Zeta Steel got pinned. I'm going to say it was Zeta Steel that got pinned after the double choke slam. And there was like 15 seconds left on the clock when Divine Dominion won. After the match, Megan Bayne hit Christopher Daniels with a Claymore, and then they hit their double choke slam on the other opponent, which I assume was Viva Van. I'm pretty sure it was Zeta Steel that got pinned and Viva Van that took the choke slam after the match. And then they were interrupted by Ty J, who have just come back to TV as a unit. Anna Jay came back a few weeks ago and lost to Willow, as everyone who returns to the women's division has been doing. And then I think it was like this past week on Dynamite, she had a promo backstage, like an interview backstage, and Ty Mello came back as well, and they were like putting the women's tag division on notice, and now they've turned up to chase off Divine Dominion. What I kind of expect to happen from here is that Ty J survive the 5-minute challenge and get a women's tag title match and then lose. That's my prediction. We'll see. The second match of the pre-show was the Ops, represented by Katsuyori Shibata, Anthony Bowens, and Hook, taking on the Death Riders, represented by Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli, accompanied by Marina Shafir. During their entrance, Daniel Garcia asked Marina Shafir to slap him like she does Jon Moxley, and she did, and he regretted it. I can't, as funny as that was, I can't really buy into Daniel Garcia in the Death Riders, like, as a serious sort of bullying threat. Like, they're kind of bullies, right? And I just can't buy into him as a bully. Like, Wheeler Yuta also doesn't really give those vibes, but he performs so well and is so good at generating heat and being hated that I think Wheeler Yuta does get away with it. But Daniel Garcia just kind of feels like Wheeler Yuta's pin guy. And, like, I don't know, can't get into it. I was never, like, the biggest Daniel Garcia fan, but I understood what they were going for with, like, the plucky underdog babyface stuff he was doing. But then, since he's joined the Death Riders, no, I don't think it's the right kind of heat with me. I think it's kind of not really interested in seeing this kind of heat. Anyway, everyone else in this match, great. I mean, Daniel Garcia is a good wrestler. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's a bad wrestler or anything. I just don't think this character works for him, personally. I made a note as well that I miss when Hook was super hyped. I know the way he debuted couldn't be maintained for very long, realistically. But I do miss it. I do miss, like, OG Hook just, like, destroying people and, like, throwing people around. It was, and being all nonchalant about it, great fun. I really enjoyed Hook on, like, debut. I know, not a particular hot take, pretty much everyone did. This was a good trios match. It was strange, I thought, that the Death Riders won, by the way, and it was strange for me that Anthony Bowens took the fall, because all the talk and the build-up and on commentary was about Anthony Bowens getting added to the Ops, and what a good addition he was, and how much he was going to come into his own in the Ops. And then he got pinned, and, like, they could have won this match. There's a Daniel Garcia and a Wheeler Yuta right there to take the fall. They could have lost the match, and Hook or Shibata could have taken the fall. I just thought it was strange that Bowens was the one who took the fall. Maybe they'll do something with it. Maybe I don't see the bigger picture, don't see the vision yet, but for me, it was strange. The finish came when Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta sort of held Bowens. They'd been, like, 3-on-1, beating him down. They held him, and Claudio just ran in and hit with an uppercut. And then just pinned him. And honestly, the finish, not only was it strange that it was Bowens getting pinned, it felt a bit abrupt as well. It was a bit like, oh, the match is over. Interesting. I didn't predict this one. I didn't predict anything on the pre-show. And I'm unsure who I would have gone for in this one with hindsight. I think I potentially would have got this one wrong, because, like, there's two pin guys on the Death Riders team, and, like, I thought Bowens was more likely to pick up a win than be pinned in this one. But also it makes sense for Claudio to pick up a win because he's going into the Owen. So I genuinely don't know who I would have picked, because I can make arguments for both sides. So, shrug. I didn't predict, so what you gonna do? The final pre-show match was Shane Taylor, the Infantry, Anthony Ogogo, and Lee Moriarty, being accompanied by Christian XO. I'm not sure who that is. I don't really watch Ring of Honor, and I think Shane Taylor Promotions are exclusively AEW pre-show and Ring of Honor. They were taking on Mark Briscoe, Roderick Strong, Orange Cassidy, QT Marshall, and Big Boom AJ, who were accompanied by the Rizzler, Harley Cameron, Big Justice, and a big carton of Vita Coco, which I've never had. I didn't make a prediction for this one, but, like, Big Boom AJ always wins on pre-show, so I would have predicted their team to win and been right. I just know I would have. I'm a bit over the whole Costco guys shtick now. Like, at first, I was like, who are these guys? I'm not interested in this. And then I sort of came round to it a bit of being like, look, they're clearly quite popular. It's not for me, but all of wrestling can't be for me. And, like, while that is still true, I'm just a bit over them winning every pre-show, like, over actual, like, wrestlers that we're supposed to take somewhat seriously as wrestlers. And, like, yeah, his match, he's fine, he's doing fine, like, he's not bad by any stretch. I'm just a bit over the whole shtick. Shrug, old man yells at cloud, right? On the plus side, Harley Cameron. One thing that did pop me in this match was the Orange Cassidy, what I'm going to call the tepid tag. He, like, his version of the hot tag. So he was, like, getting beat down in the ring, and then I think it was, hang on, I wrote it down. Let's not try and pretend I'm remembering. Carly Bravo did, like, a sunset flip and was, like, holding onto his legs, trying to pull him down into the pin. And Orange Cassidy, just after a bit, looked down, slapped him on the hands and made him let go, and then just walked over and tagged out. And I was like, I love Orange Cassidy's shtick. I know I just said, like, the Costco guy is getting old. I don't find Orange Cassidy's gets old. And him making, like, the world's coolest hot tag is just great. So yeah, that was a fun moment in the match. This is okay, so here's part of the problem I have with the Costco guys thing. This is the second pre-show in a row that the Rizzler, who, may I remind you, is a child, has rizzed STP's manager. And this time, Harley Cameron came over to fight Christian XO, seemingly over the Rizzler. It's madness. It's mad. It's a child. Like, I get it's a bit that he's got Riz and he does this thing, but he's a child. Stop having grown women fall for it. It's so weird. Is it just me that thinks it's really, really weird? Like, it can't just be me. The final spot of the match, like the finale to the match, QT Marshall fell off the turnbuckle, and that looked like fairly legitimate. Like, I think he was meant to be involved in that Tower of Doom spot, and he just kind of fell, and they just did the powerbomb anyway and did the pin. Like, I think maybe he was gonna, like, flip over and turn it into, like, a blockbuster or something, or like, jump off and turn it into, Doomsday Device. I think they've done, don't him and AJ use the Boomsday Device as, like, their finisher, so I think they were probably going to go for, like, a double version of that, because, like, the finish was, like, 3 of the Team AJ people, I can't remember which ones, doing, like, a triple double powerbomb to, I think it was the Infantry, I think it was both members of the Infantry. Oh, hang on, I wrote it down, it was Big Boom AJ, Mark Briscoe and Roderick Strong, and it was the Infantry, and then AJ just pinned Bravo, and, like, yeah, I wrote again in my notes that I'm quite over the Costco guys thing. Like, but I think QT Marshall was supposed to be involved in the finish and just sort of fell. So, anyway, after the match, STP surrounded the ring, surrounded the people who just beat them, and now the people who just beat them were worried for some reason about this fight. And then Eddie Kingston, Ortiz, and Mance Warner, who I didn't even know was in AEW or Ring of Honor or whatever, came out to make the save. Apparently, they've been having a feud in Ring of Honor. Like, Eddie Kingston's music hit. It got a big pop. New York crowd. AEW crowd. Like, Kingston's popular. Kingston's great. But, like, they're playing out things that I think the vast majority of the AEW audience aren't really watching in Ring of Honor on an AEW pre-show. I didn't understand. I mean, commentary filled it in just fine. So I understood after the explanation. But, like, it's hard to be super invested. You know, like when someone tells you a joke, and then you don't get it, and then they tell you why the joke's funny. It's kind of hard to then find it funny, right? It's like, oh, right, no, I appreciate why it was funny now that I understand it. But you don't start belly laughing. Same thing, you can't just be excited after the fact once commentary have explained it. And there was no reveal of the Vita Coco mascot. I was actually chatting in a friend's Discord server about it. We were, like, talking about the show as it was going on. And we came up with some great theories. Someone said that online, is he called Wayne Brady? The guy, the comedian guy who got dragged over the barricade at the last show, people were speculating it was him and he was going to get his revenge. I said, no, it's Hangman Adam Page. He loves a mascot outfit. The funniest way possible to bring back Hangman Adam Page would be as a carton of coconut water in a pre-show match with Big Boom AJ. But, like, yeah, it would have been great, but alas, there was no reveal at all. It was not a relevant story beat, clearly, who was in the costume. And then we finished off the pre-show with a segment, which is a bit of a rarity, but we had, it came across quite natural as well, because it was like just Renee asking Mick Foley who he thought was going to win the main event. Mick Foley picked Darby Allin, and then MJF came out angry about that. They had a bit of a back and forth, and Foley was much better once he got into the swing of things of it being an actual promo with Max and bouncing off MJF. He name dropped The Rock and the crowd booed it, which I thought was great. Like, good. Like, what a weird name drop to choose in front of an AEW audience in 2026. Anyway, after a bit of back and forth, MJF kicked in between the legs and then lined up a shot with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, but Darby Allin made the save, and then when MJF's like scooted up the ramp. Mick Foley gives Darby Allin like a pep talk. I predicted MJF to win this, and it seems most people I knew were picking Darby Allin, and most people I saw online. And I understand Chekhov's gun, right? They've shown the stipulation, so they have to follow through with the stipulation, right? But the thing is, the whole thing has been built around the stipulation, and like there's been mention of it every 30 seconds when either Darby Allin or MJF has been on screen for the entire time since the stipulation was made. And they've even had like a fake out with the Clippers already. I don't think Chekhov's gun applies if they introduce the gun in Act 1 and then take a picture of the gun and stick it to the main camera so you can't see much else of what's going on in the scene for the rest of the show. It's just the gun, reminding you, hey, remember, there's a gun. Like, that's when Chekhov's gun doesn't apply, right? When they're almost too obvious with it. That was my thinking when I made my predictions. And also, the way they've built up Darby, like Foley, like picking him and giving him the pep talk and stuff, and the way Darby's been, like, working way too hard defending the title, like, twice a week, every week. It's building to Darby can't go anymore because he pushed himself too hard. And I firmly believe the main event of All In is Will Ospreay against MJF. And if MJF loses here, what's his route back to the world title? So with all of that said, I was just like, yeah, MJF's winning. But so many people were betting against MJF that I started to lose a bit of confidence in that prediction. But I stuck to my guns. You've seen my prediction. I made my prediction. Anyway, on to the main show. However long into the review, 10, 15 minutes into the review. So the main show kicked off with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage versus FTR for the AEW Men's World Tag Team Championship. I predicted Cage and Cope to win this. This felt like the comeuppance match for FTR, right? In the build. This felt like where you get the feel-good moment where the crowd get what they want, which is the heels to lose. And also, I Quit as a concept does generally favour babyfaces. Like, not always. There's ways of cheating. There's also ways of, like, manipulating an I Quit. Edge did it in WWE. Adam Copeland himself lost an I Quit match to save Beth from a Judgment Day attack back in, like, 2022. So there was a chance of that sort of finish. I did think the one way FTR could win would be if Beth came back, but then got into danger again, and Copeland had to quit to save her. But I still predicted Cage and Cope. Okay, hot take for a second. Are Cage and Cope overhyped as a tag team by, like, commentary and, like, revisionist history? Like, they're talked about as being, like, one of the greatest tag teams of the early... Like, I think they said the greatest tag teams of the early 2000s. They broke up in 2001. They debuted in WWF in 1998. They were only a team for, like, 2 to 3 years, depending on what months the debut and breakup were. And they weren't even a team when they first debuted. Like, it took a minute for Edge to join the Brood, right? And then, yeah, sure, they won, like, 7 tag titles together, because the tag titles were hot-shotted all over the place, and they made a huge impact. They were incredibly over. They did, like, the ladder matches with the Hardys, then the triple threat ladder, then the TLCs, you know, like, big deal. I understand that. But are they one of the greatest tag teams of all time when they had, like, a 2.5-year run, maybe, and hot potatoed the tag titles around like crazy? Like 7 really short reigns. It's interesting, isn't it? That era of, like, tag team wrestling is looked at as being, like, the ultimate era in WWE tag team wrestling, but WWE's never been the place for tag team wrestling, and even then it was sort of like, oh yeah, let's just let these crazy guys go do some crazy stuff, but we're not going to take it any more seriously than that. I think Cage and Cope both had much bigger singles careers than they did as tag guys. Edge, obviously, right? Like, how many times was he, like, world champion? Like 10? 11? I genuinely don't know. And Christian, only a couple of times in WWE, but then the TNA run as well, his ECW run, which, But, like, plenty of time Intercontinental title champion between them. Tag title reigns with other partners. I feel like Edge and Christian was such a small portion of their career. But, like, because of the nostalgia and because people love those TLC matches, which, rightly so, by the way, fantastic car crash matches, I do feel like it gets overhyped as, like, an era, because it was a 2.5 to 3 year era, which is hardly an era at all, right? I don't know. I know Impact is more than just time served, but I feel like they had more impact as singles guys as well. Certainly Edge. And Christian has been okay, hot take. Christian has been better in his AEW run than he was throughout the entirety of Edge and Christian. Like, for me, personally. Like, his singles AEW run has been great. I don't know. Hot take. This was a very fun, very violent match. I'm not going to play-by-play matches as we go through this review, because 1, it takes forever. 2, just watch the show if you want to know exactly what happened. Like, it was a great show. I recommend it. And 3, like, I didn't want to just sit there constantly typing notes, you know, being like, okay, this move, then this move, then this move. Like, I wanted to get the gist of it down, but spend most of the time watching the show. So that's basically what I did. But I did make a list of the weapons used in this match, because I knew it was going to be entertaining. So we had barbed wire, we had chairs, we had a ladder, we had pliers, we had a toolbox, we had the announce table lid, we had steps, like, not the band that sang 5, 6, 7, 8, the steel ring steps. A cinder block, a microphone, Christian's watch, a flaming table, and of course, Spike. And in terms of like the biggest spots of the match, again, not to do play-by-play, but like the really significant ones, the Spike pile driver to Cope on the Spanish announce table, Christian refusing to say I quit by going, I banged your mother, was wild, and led to a song by the crowd of, oh, he banged your mother, which is just tremendous work. Well done, crowd. They took the top rope off completely, like they undid one corner and the top rope was completely missing for most of that match. Of course, Beth's return was a huge moment. She came down, she took the fight to Stoke and then essentially immediately got taken out by, I think it was Dax, pushed her into the ring steps. And I was like, in that moment, I was like, oh, are they going to do the Judgment Day Finn versus Edge finish? Like, there's a chance, right? Because the Beth return got its legs taken out from under it, like, almost immediately. But then they set up for the flaming table spot, like the iconic Mick Foley Edge flaming table spot, like, obviously going for the homage. But on Beth, with Stoke holding her, and I think it was Cash Wheeler going for the spear, but Beth moved out the way and pulled Stoke in the way, so it was actually Cash Wheeler and Stoke who went through the table, and that led to the end, which was Beth saved Cope from a concerto with a low blow, Christian followed it with a second low blow, and then Cope hit a pile driver, Christian locked in the sharpshooter, Cope locked in the crossface, but Dax, this is all on Dax, Dax wouldn't quit, so Cope told Beth to get Spike from under the other set of ring steps. Then he locked in the crossface, but with Spike digging into Dax's head, which there was no blood from that, which, look, I'm not a there must be blood kind of guy, but when you've got a big stick full of nails sticking out of it, and you dig it into a guy's face, when you let go, there should probably be some blood, right? Like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I feel like there should maybe be some blood. Anyway, that made Dax quit, and I predicted that, so 1 for 1, baby. Christian got his watch back, of course, at the end of the match, and Beth got quite emotional on the outside, presumably because Christian got his watch back and nothing to do with her husband getting the tag titles. Next match was Konosuke Takeshita versus Kazuchika Okada for the AEW International Championship. There was a double video package for this one, likely to allow for rebuilding the ring, to be honest. It was one that was like standard match hype, and then Takeshita had like an extra video package just for him as like the precursor to his entrance. My prediction, Takeshita. Surely Takeshita wins. Like, it just feels like the crescendo of the story where Takeshita wins, right? Don Callis wasn't present for either entrance. I sort of expected him to be with Okada because the tone has constantly been, and commentary even called him out on this, he's always been on Okada's side a little bit in this one, even though he claims to be impartial. He's always kind of been on Okada's side. He was on commentary for the match, and he actually got involved. There was a moment where Okada was going for like a tombstone on the outside on Takeshita, and Callis got up off commentary and like stopped him, like, you know, don't break his neck. I don't need a guy with a broken neck. Like, win by all means, but don't kill each other. And then shortly after that, Takeshita actually hit a brainbuster on the outside on Okada, and then Callis was in his face, like, livid, like, I just told Okada not to do that, you know, kind of thing. Takeshita gave Don the middle finger, and then got on with the action. This match was phenomenal. For me, match of the night. This was incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed this, start to finish. There was a lot of really good matches, but this was my pick, personally. They got the drama in with Don, like the Don Callis family drama, but it far from overshadowed the match. Like, it came nowhere near being a problem. The wrestling was just tremendous. The finish came Takeshita pinned Okada with the Raging Fire, which I predicted Takeshita to win. I thought Takeshita was going to win, but I thought that Raging Fire was going to be a near fall, and it was going to be en route to the actual finish. So I was a bit surprised by the match finishing there. I thought it had like a few more minutes in it, to be honest. I thought it had legs. But it was still a phenomenal match. I don't know how long the match actually went. Maybe it like flew by because I was enjoying it so much and it felt shorter than it was. I don't know. Anyway, after the match, Rocky Romero and Mark Davis came out and they kind of confronted Takeshita with Okada and Don Callis. And it looked like they were about to like kick off with him. And it was like, well, you all agreed to this match. Like, and Takeshita winning was one of the outcomes that was possible, right? So I don't know why they were mad at him. But then Kyle Fletcher's music hits and he comes out. And I wrote down immediately in my notes, probably turns on Takeshita here. And Fletcher squares up to Okada. Don Callis tells the family to back down. Proto Shita have a hug. There's a big pop for it. Kyle Fletcher raises Takeshita's hand and then clotheslines him, because of course he did. Called it. Like, I'm probably not the only one who called it, let's be honest. Yeah, I can't wait for Fletcher versus Takeshita. That's going to be incredible, right? But then, after the beatdown on Takeshita, both Okada and Fletcher tried to pick up the International Championship and sort of looked at each other, then Okada backed down from it and let Fletcher hold it. But maybe it's going to be a triple threat. I kind of hope we do get to see Fletcher and Takeshita one-on-one as well. But I'm not against that as a triple threat. Like, let's be real. All of these match possibilities are incredible to think about. So, like, yes, please. Anyway, Fletcher hit Takeshita with the belt to end the segment, blah, blah, blah. Next match was Mina Shirakawa versus Athena in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament opening match for the women's side. And I just put, as much as I would love Mina to win the whole thing, like, would love that. It just didn't feel like it, right? It felt like an Athena win. Athena is very protected in AEW and Ring of Honor. Very seldom loses. They were talking on commentary about she's not lost in like 77 matches or something. Like, ludicrously protected. But rightly so. She's a phenomenal talent, right? Great wrestler. This was a really good match. I put Athena is so damn good. It's wild that she's predominantly in Ring of Honor. Like, still. Like, I know she's got this insanely long title reign in there, but like how she's not AEW Women's World Champion, I just simply don't know. Athena won with the O-face, called it 3 out of 3. Damn, I'm good. Next match, Kyle O'Reilly versus Jon Moxley for the AEW Continental Championship. So there was a little like precursor segment backstage with the conglomeration where Orange Cassidy took the Trios Championship out of Kyle's backpack, and Roderick Strong just says, just making some room, like, meaning for the Continental title belt. JR joined us on commentary. I understand the nostalgia for JR. Some of his calls are absolutely iconic, and a lot of his work in, like, the Attitude Era and around that time was incredible, right? I haven't enjoyed JR in AEW for years, if at all. I think he's just past his prime, and I think the man should just get a Legends deal with AEW, get like a backstage role if that's what you want, and just stop trotting him out for him to sort of, honestly, kind of embarrass himself, kind of like poo on his own legacy a little bit by being a much inferior commentator now. And like, you can't blame him. The guy's old. The guy's got to be like in his 70s or something now. He's been through all these health issues. Like, and look, they probably do it as a favour to him because he probably wants to do it. He probably enjoys it, right? And, like, who am I to stop that from happening? If that's the case, if it's JR's call, then fair enough, he's earned that, right? But if this is an AEW call, they need to stop it, frankly. Because it's just not great anymore. And he really was. But he's just not great anymore. I predicted Mox to win this one, by the way. There's been too much emphasis in the build on he can't beat Kyle O'Reilly. He can't beat Kyle O'Reilly. Guess what? I predict he's going to beat Kyle O'Reilly. And he did. This match, the build was a lot slower than previous matches on the show, but it built really well to a crescendo, I thought. It was a very different style of match, but very well executed nonetheless. So early-ish, they were fighting on the outside, and Kyle O'Reilly tried to like roundhouse kick Jon Moxley in the chest, and Mox got out of the way, and O'Reilly kicked the ring post, like, not very hard, but in kayfabe, pretty hard. And that was like the story of the match, of Moxley keep going back to the leg when it's usually Kyle O'Reilly targeting Moxley's leg, and it still was to an extent. And they ended up, the end of the match was like they both locked in ankle locks, both grapevined. Like, I don't know how better to explain this than in a 69 position, except at each other's feet instead of each other's crotches. Like, that's the best way I can explain it. So, like, lying alongside each other, yin and yang. There you go, there's a better way of explaining it. But Kyle O'Reilly, because of the injury to his leg from kicking the ring post and being worked over by Mox throughout the match, let go and went for a pin to try and escape it. But when Mox kicked out, he managed to hold the ankle lock, and eventually Kyle had to tap to it. And I thought it was a really good finish. I thought it was it showed Mox as like this person who can adapt on the fly, can strategize on the fly. Kyle O'Reilly, super tough, only just lost despite the fact that, you know, he kicked the hell out of a metal pole earlier in the match. Almost had Mox a few times. Like, yeah, I thought Kyle O'Reilly looked really good in defeat here. But the important thing is he got defeated, and that's what I predicted. 4 from 4, baby! The respective teams came out, the Death Riders conglomeration afterwards, and Jon Moxley offered a handshake, and then JR commented on there being a new champion. My point. Like, makes my point for me sometimes. Next match, the opening match for the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Will Ospreay versus Samoa Joe. I predicted Will Ospreay to win this match because I'm predicting Will Ospreay to win the whole thing and the world title at All In. So, yeah, Will Ospreay to win. The match started off really hot. After the last sort of slow build match, this one, Samoa Joe's music hadn't even finished and Will Ospreay had hit an Oscutter. And then they fought back and forth for a bit. You know, again, I'm not trying to do play-by-play, but I have to mention one of my all-time favourite wrestling spots is Samoa Joe walking away from a high-flying move. He walked away from an Oscutter, like the second Oscutter attempt, and I thought that was brilliant. I love that spot. It never gets old for me. Just like Samoa Joe sees someone coming jumping at him, and he just walks away. He just, nope. There was a good false coquina clutch finish with the third arm drop landing on the rope. I'm not the world's biggest fan of the 3 arm drops these days. I think the single arm drop is a bit more realistic. But I understand its place, the 3 arm drop in building drama. I just wish all wrestling companies, even if they can't agree between each other amongst themselves, would agree internally what the you've been choked out protocol is. Because sometimes it's 1 arm drop, sometimes it's 3, sometimes they just sort of tap them and they look like they're out, so they ring the bell. And it's like, make it consistent. Like, it makes the moment more dramatic if the crowd know what's happening. Like, when Will Ospreay's arm dropped the first time, there was a reasonably sized gasp from the audience where they thought he'd just lost the match. Because they didn't know whether it's 1, 3, a tap on the shoulder and see if he says anything. Like, they don't know the etiquette because it changes all the time. So yeah, fix that, but it was still a pretty good false finish. And Ospreay selling it into camera was really good. Like, the way he sold fading was really good. The finish came, Joe was going for a muscle buster, Ospreay flipped out of it, landed on his feet, hidden blade, Joe kicked out at 1, but then as he was getting up, Ospreay hit another hidden blade to the back of the head and then pinned him. I predicted Ospreay to win, 5 from 5. Can't do a lot better than that in the first 5 matches. After the match, we had a look at the bracket. Ospreay goes on to face the winner of Mark Davis and Jack Perry. Surely it's going to be Mark Davis because Ospreay just lost by stoppage to Mark Davis and was going to be pile driven, and that's when the Death Riders rescued Ospreay, right? Was after the Mark Davis match. So surely it's going to be the rematch with Davis where Ospreay gets his win back. Joe, on the outside, did a little like bow of respect to Ospreay after the match and then walked away. So that won't be continuing, it would seem. Next, another Owen Hart Foundation tournament match, Swerve Strickland versus Bandido. I predicted Swerve, because, like, clearly Tony Khan loves Bandido. Clearly he has good reason to. Bandido's great. But, like, Swerve Strickland's on a different level. Swerve Strickland's, like, someone who at pretty much any moment I wouldn't be super surprised to see them put the world title on. I'd be quite surprised if Bandido became AEW World Champion right now. I think he could be built there, but, like, right now, I would be quite surprised. Swerve's just on that level, you know. The MJF, Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley, Swerve would be Hangman if it weren't for the stipulation. Like, that echelon, Swerve is in it. Bandido isn't currently, I don't think. He's not far away, but he is He is not in that echelon. And this was a really fun match. There was a really fun spot where Swerve ran at Bandido and just got hoisted straight up onto his shoulders, like straight upright, stood on his shoulders, and then house called him, just kicked him in the back of the head. That spot was impressive. I don't even know who was impressive. I think everyone must have been impressive. Bandido's strength, Swerve's balance, Swerve's core, like, all impressive. There was a poison Rana to the outside, which looked insane. There was a code red position into a spike Hurricane Rana that I don't quite understand, despite having seen it myself, how it happened, that Bandido hit. And then the finish was like a 21-plex attempt that got counted into a vertebraker and then followed up with a house call for 3. For Swerve, by the way. 6 out of 6. Swerve wins. Really fun match. Really good match. Not match of the night. People were going to really struggle to live up to Takeshita Okada, let's be honest. But this was really good. This was this second or third? This was probably top 3 for me. This was a very good match. Very, very good match. There were some very clever and well-executed sequences in this match, was my main takeaway. Like, some of the sort of clearly premeditated sequences and big spots were very clever, very well put together, but also really well done on the most part as well. Like, nothing looked botchy or unsmooth from what I can remember. Swerve in the bracket goes on to face the winner of Brody King and Claudio. It's probably Brody King, right? They've already fought, so they probably do that again. Although Swerve versus Claudio would be phenomenal. Like, I'm not bothered who Swerve faces in the semis there. I think Swerve probably faces Ospreay in the final. I think that's probably the final, is Ospreay versus Swerve, with Ospreay winning. But, like, exactly who Swerve goes through to get to that final, I honestly don't care. I think both matches will be incredible, and I'm really looking forward to Brody King versus Claudio as well. Like, this whole tournament is just lined up to be great matches. Next match, the AEW Women's World Championship. Tekla defended against Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, and Hikaru Shida in a 4-way. I predicted Tekla to retain, but this was one of the few matches I wasn't that confident predicting. And I wrote down before the match that I was curious how the Statlander-Shida dynamic plays out in the match, because obviously that's like the big story going in, is those two. This was an all-action, very fun Fatal 4-way. There wasn't a lot of downtime. There wasn't a lot of time where it was one-on-one and everyone else was having a nap. Like, there was obviously moments where people were down because you've got to be able to focus the action, but it rotated who the two were very frequently, and I thought it was really well done. Oh, there was a really cool spot where Tekla was doing her creepy crab walk thingy-majig where she's upside down, and then Stat just steps into frame and picks her up into a tombstone position. Like, that was really cool. We didn't get the tombstone payoff. I think Jamie Hayter got involved or something, but that was cool. I thought Shida and Stat wasn't... they were quite clever. They teased Shida and Stat throughout the match, but didn't address it much throughout the bulk of the match, and let the match happen outside of that, first of all, with only like little bits of reference to it. The first real big thing was Shida accidentally hitting Statlander with a knee that was intended for Jamie Hayter. The end sequence felt... I wrote down a lot of it, like more play-by-play than I'd usually do, but it all felt kind of relevant. So after that knee, a little bit after, Shida broke up a Hayter pin on Tekla after Haterade, which sort of implies Hayter would have got the pin there because that's her finish. Then she hits the Falcon Arrow on Hayter, applied an awkward looking submission, like it was like an ankle lock, but for some reason she had a leg over her shoulder. It was, I don't know, it was weird. But then Stat came back in. This is the first we saw Stat after the knee, I think. Comes in, grips her by the throat. Then Shida apologizes, but to Statlander, and Statlander lets go. Then Shida slaps her, so Statlander just beats the hell out of her. Then she gets back in the ring. They end up fighting to the outside. She gets back into the ring, hits Sunday Night Fever on Tekla, but then the pin is broken up by Shida with a kendo stick. Jamie Hayter then disarms Shida, but in doing so, drags her to the outside. They double clothesline on the outside. We go back to the action on the inside, and Tekla hits the stomp on Statlander and gets the 3. So I predicted correctly. 7 out of 7. And I'm really interested in the fallout from Statlander and Shida. I don't know if we'll go back to Tekla versus Jamie Hayter and like split this into 2 feuds, or if Jamie will go back to tag team stuff with Windsor and Tekla will get a new challenger. I don't know. But I'm most interested in the Statlander versus Shida stuff, to be honest. I think that could be a fun feud. I think the dynamics between them were well done without overshadowing the match. they played mostly into like the finish of the match. There was little hints here and there throughout the match, but like it didn't get in the way of the match being a match, first and foremost, so that was good. Next up was Stadium Stampede, which was, yeah. The Babyface's video package was cool. It was intentionally cheesy, but it was really well done, and it was funny. Omega coughing up his guts when he smoked the cigar trying to look cool. Little bits like that, very good. I predicted the Faces to win. I didn't think it massively mattered who won this in the grand scheme of things, but it's just such a powerful team. Omega, Bucks, Hurt Syndicate, Jericho, and Jack Perry. Like, who's taking the fall for that team? I mean, I guess probably Jack Perry or Jericho is taking the fall for that team. Although, like, the Bucks and Omega can be quite selfless as well. So, like, there's people that can take the fall, but, like, why would they? That's a monstrous babyface team. I wrote in my notes, this one's probably going to be wild. We'll do my best to highlight some highlights. So, here are some of them. Toa Leona triple Samoan dropped the Bucks and Jack Perry, which is wild. Like, he didn't even look like he was particularly struggling. Like, and I know people will be like, oh, but that's 3 smaller dudes. It's like, yeah, but they're still adult men. Each one of them is still probably heavier than me. Like, that's wild that he just really didn't seem like he was struggling that much, like, with them at all. Lio Rush showed up while Bobby Lashley and Toa Leona were fighting backstage. Lio Rush turned up in his full, like, squeaky weirdo gimmick. So that was fun, and he ended up jumping on Toa Leona. He ended up siding with Bobby Lashley, which was a nice callback to their brief time in WWE as a team. Andrade was doing his bit where he gets a selfie with some attractive ladies at ringside, and Luchasaurus turns up in a blonde wig and hijacks the picture. That was very fun. That was very, very fun. Chris Jericho had a tax bag, like they normally tip out the thumbtacks, but it was tennis balls, and then suplexed Ricochet into them, and then Ricochet hit a Death Valley driver on Jericho onto the tennis balls, which probably isn't as brutal as thumbtacks. But anyone who's ever, like, fallen and landed on, like, a tennis ball or, like a similar-sized ball and it, like, digs into you as you land, it really doesn't feel great. It's, like, it's probably not the worst bump they've ever taken, but it probably wasn't the most pleasant bump of the match either. They ended up fighting in catering at one point, and Andrade got pushed into Satnam Singh, pushing his face into his food. And then that broke out a food fight, because of course it did, and then Satnam Singh just threw some random dude at a table for seemingly no reason. Luther showed up, former deathmatch guy Luther, now Tony Storm's butler Luther, turned up and gave Chris Jericho a massive tennis racket when he was beating Ricochet with a regular-sized tennis racket backstage. And then the finale... The finale was quite good, actually. So there was about 50 table breaks. There's probably about 6. But, like, each babyface put a different heel through a table until they were left with just Ricochet. And then all the babyfaces hit all the finishes to Ricochet. But just as Jericho was about to hit the Judas effect, Bishop Khan shoved Ricochet out the way. He then took a heptuple super kick. All 7 guys super kicked him at once on all sides. And then a lion salt to Bishop Khan was the thing that got the pinfall, got the 3. Jericho pinned Bishop Khan. 8 out of 8! I'm good, right? I'm good. Maybe I shouldn't do predictions videos. Maybe I should always just do it as like a graphic. Maybe I'm just better if I don't have to go through my thoughts out loud. Maybe if I just like go, yeah, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. Like, maybe I'm better. I don't know. Or maybe this was just quite a predictable show. More on that after the main event. This was wild, great, silly fun. Like, it's a bit meta, isn't it? Stadium Stampede. It's like, it's very silly. It's very nudge, nudge, wink, wink. It's a bit Carry On Camping wrestling, but it's so much fun. Jericho after the match paid homage to Sabu. He did the point and then put himself through a table. Fair enough. I'm not sure if there was some significance to that. Like, obviously I know paying homage to Sabu, but was it like near Sabu's birthday? I mean, it was in the Northeast. It was in ECW-ish territory in New York, right? Not far from Philly. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look into whether it was like a significant date or location or something, or if he just felt like paying homage to Sabu. Either way, Taz seemed to enjoy it whilst kayfabe trying not to enjoy it on commentary is what I think was happening there. Anyway, main event. the match that I predicted one way and the rest of the world predicted the other, it seems. MJF challenging Darby Allin for the AEW Men's World Championship. I predicted MJF to win. I just thought the Chekhov's gun was too obvious. Like, it was too overplayed. Obviously, they were going to swerve it, right? That's what I thought. And I think the obvious main event for Wembley is Ospreay MJF, and I think you struggle to get MJF into there if he loses here. Anyway, there was a really brutal early spill for Darby. He got off to a really good start with a load of headlock takeovers and pin attempts. And then MJF ended up on the outside and did the sort of dodge out the way of the suicide dive. The tope suicida, whatever. Which is fine, because Darby knew he was going to hit the floor hard. And he prepared for it. And Darby Allin clearly is made of rubber and just bounces. But it would have gone a lot more smoothly had he not caught his heels on the middle rope on the way through. And that really halted his rotation to land on his back, and he sort of landed crumpled up on here on his shoulders, which is fine, but it was so close to landing like on his neck or on his head. Like, it was sent shivers through me even just thinking about it then. Yeah, not a good bump. He was lucky not to get like properly hurt there. In lighter news, this was a really good match. What I liked about this match is both guys felt like they had a real sense of urgency about them. Like, this, there's a lot of tendency in modern let's have a 5-star wrestling match on pay-per-view wrestling for a lot of stuff to be allowed to breathe. Hit a big move, stand there, look at the crowd, oh, how great am I? Now let me pick them up and do something else to them, and then pick them up and do something else to them. No, this was pinfall attempt, pinfall attempt, pinfall attempt, pinfall attempt. Like, not even counting the bit where they're doing the roll up, reversal situation. Like, not even counting that. There were so many pinfall attempts in this match. Both men really wanted to win this. MJF wanted his title back, didn't want to be shaved bald. Darby Allin really wanted to shave MJF's head. They just really wanted to win in kayfabe. Like, they really wanted to, and I thought it came across really well. I really enjoyed that aspect of the match. There was a I was going to say a mental moment. There was a standard Darby Allin moment where he decided, so MJF took the fight up the ramp and went to try and shave Darby Allin's head, but then Darby Allin got the upper hand, put MJF on the table where the clippers had originally been laid out, and then climbed up on like the scaffolding that made up the set, and then coffin dropped off that through the table, and like banged his head on something after the initial impact, because he came up just like blood gushing. The back of his hair was just red. It looked like he dyed it. It was just pure red. So I'm not sure exactly what he hit, but he hit something pretty hard. Anyway, they get back to the ring, they do some more back and forth. Again, not doing just all play-by-play, but the finish was MJF got Darby Allin in position for an avalanche tombstone, and then hit the headlock takeover and pinned him, because of course he did. And got the 3, which puts me 9 for 9 on predictions. Perfect. Hell yeah. And I would have definitely got 2 of the pre-show matches and 50-50 on the other ones, so like, you know. Possibly, if I'd have done predictions and remembered to do the pre-show, I might have gone clean sweep. Shrug, who knows. But I went clean sweep on the main show, which I'm pretty pleased with. Now, does that... Well, you know what? Let's talk about what happened after the match first. Kevin Knight came out and saved Darby Allin from a post-match attack, and then hit a UFO splash onto Darby, who was on a stretcher by that point, and then did the heel dead stare at Darby, while MJF applauded and smiled and guffawed. So Darby's not the next challenger for MJF. They're not doing a rematch. They're doing Darby versus Kevin Knight. And obviously, Speedball Mike Bailey will have some thoughts on this. It's going to be interesting. Maybe Darby will be out for a little bit, and it'll be Bailey versus Knight, and then it'll be Knight versus Darby, potentially. Also, another thing that he's addressing is Roosh called next, right, on the world title on Darby, and now Darby's lost the title. Roosh doesn't get that shot, so he should have beef with Darby, funnily enough. He should also have beef with MJF, because now he's got the title that Roosh wanted, but like, he might take it out on Darby for losing, which that'd be a really good feud as well, and a really good match. Anyway, so the match, other than Kevin Knight's turn, which also they hinted pretty heavily that he was not very genuine of late, right? But the rest of the show was certainly very predictable, in my opinion. I don't think the main event was necessarily very predictable. I think a lot of people predicted it wrong. I felt it was quite clear MJF was going to win, but general consensus was that it wasn't that clear. which is fine. Is it a bad thing when a wrestling show is quite predictable? I don't think so in this case, because, like, anything that they would have gone against, in my opinion, out of these 9 results, would have potentially kind of felt a bit like a swerve for the sake of doing a swerve. I suppose they could have had Kyle Fletcher cost Takeshita the match and Okada retain, like done the Kyle Fletcher return and turn in the match, but that takes away from the great match that they had, right? And also, I just think it was Takeshita's time to get that title back and have a run as a champion again. I don't think it was the time to break up a Cope and Cage. I think there's a bit more legs in that reunion yet. Probably up to All In, at the very least. What else could they have flipped? The women's world title, I could have seen Shida stealing the win from Statlander. Would have been a very interesting move. So they could have done that. But, like, most of the matches kind of needed to go the way that they did. Ospreay needed to win. He's going to main event All In. He had to win, right? A swerve there serves no one. Bandito's not winning the tournament, so I don't think him winning there helps him as much as it hurts Swerve. You know, there's just all these sort of matches where I think the reason the show was quite predictable is because it was quite logically booked. It was quite sensible. There was no swerves for the sake of swerves. There was no, you know, there was no nonsense results. And sometimes I'll predict something wrong and understand why they went against it. Most of this, if they'd have gone against what I predicted, I'd have been like, why have they done that? That makes no sense. Like, and I think that's why the show was quite predictable, but also why the show was still really, really, really good. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Despite feeling like I knew what the results were going to be of each match in advance. Like, you're never really 100% sure when you predict results. They can always swerve you. So, like, and I think most matches did a good enough job of presenting an alternative ending that, like, I wasn't sat there being like, yeah, get on with the finish, you know, like, get on with the real finish. It was still a really good show, really well wrestled, really well paced, really well booked. Really good show. No notes. Like, great show. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't really have any complaints about this show, except the pre-show. Stop with the Rizzler stuff. Stop with the Costco guys stuff altogether, but stop having the Rizzler rizzing grown women. It's so weird. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on the show in the comments. I'd love to know, like, what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. Is there anything you didn't like? Is there anything you particularly did like? How did you do predicting the show, if you did? Like, let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new here. There'll be plenty more wrestling content on the way. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been EBEZA. You've been amazing. And I'll see you next time.